Bye.
Hey everybody, welcome to Knock Knock Eye with me, your host, Dr. Glockenfleck, and this is your one-stop shop for all things eyeball related. I'll be honest with you all, I had a bit of a rough day today. Feeling a little tired, feeling a little ornery, but we have some interesting things to talk about, and it's a busy time for Glockenflecken in general. I do a lot of speaking in the spring and fall. It's like that is conference season, so we get a lot of people, a lot of things, events happening, and so in a couple days, I just got back from one. A couple days, I'm going to another one on another little speaking trip, and so I'm feeling a little bit run down these days. But here's what's on the agenda for today. I have a mystery case for you, a patient I saw a few months back. I've got something I love about ophthalmology, something I hate about ophthalmology. And actually, both of those things are things I encountered today that made me feel a little bit run down. Not the thing I love, that's great, but the thing I hate showed up. Spoiler alert, it has to do with insurance. All right, so I got the mystery case, the thing I love, thing I hate. And but before we get to all that, let me give you an update about what's happening in Eugene. So I did a big summary video about a couple weeks ago, and I was actually surprised by how well it did. I was just telling the story from start to finish as quickly as I could. It was about 5 minutes, no skit, no costume. Occasionally, I will just talk into the camera and say a thing, and usually those videos don't do as well as my skits. But for whatever reason, I think it's just because people are fed up with the healthcare system, they are tired of CEOs behaving badly and health systems behaving badly. And that's kind of what's going on here with this whole Eugene emergency physicians thing. So I put this video out, and I last time I checked, on a 5-minute video, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's like ancient. That's like a relic from a past era of social media when you have like a 5-minute video that seems like so long, and much longer than my usual content. And people are actually watching it. It's like several million views across social media. And a couple things from that video. First, I started out by saying that Eugene is in Southern Oregon. And that's on me. That's a mistake. I'm so sorry. I think I've gotten about 2,000 comments across social media about that video. 1,800 of them were telling me that Eugene is not in Southern Oregon. So thank you, Oregonians. I am so sorry. That was very Portland of me. It's like from a Portlander's perspective, it's south, but you're right. It's not Southern Oregon. That's beside the point. That wasn't even the point of the video, but that's what happens on social media. You say one weird thing or thing that's not totally right. It doesn't matter if it's the point of the video. That's what people are going to point out to you, which is why when I do my skits, I take great care to make sure that the medicine within the skits is accurate, even if it's not the point. But if I say one wrong thing about nephrology, oh man, that's all the doctors on social media that follow me are going to care about. And I get it because I'm a doctor myself. I pay attention to that stuff too. So anyway, try to be as accurate as possible. Sorry to my fellow Oregonians. But here is the quick and dirty summary, because since the last time I talked about this about a month ago on the podcast, there's been a couple new things. So here we go. Real quick recap. So Peace Health, which is the largest, not the largest, but one of the hospital systems, the big hospital systems in the Pacific Northwest. So they're in Washington, they're in Alaska, and they're in Oregon. Their big presence in Oregon is in the Eugene area, Eugene, Springfield. And what they decided to do back in 2024 was close the only hospital within the city limits of Eugene. It was called University District Hospital. They closed it down. And much to the chagrin of all the doctors who raised the alarm bells. They said, hey, Peace Health, don't do this. Don't do this, please. Don't close the emergency department in Eugene, because all of those patients are now going to have to go to Riverbend Hospital, which is ill-equipped to handle all of that volume. So primarily it was the emergency doctors who were like sounding the alarm, saying, please don't do this. They did it anyway. And guess what happened? Well, Riverbend Hospital, the emergency department there, was overrun by patients. Wait times skyrocketed. And then not too long after that, so now we're fast forward, they've been dealing with this increased wait times, angry patients, whatever it is, for about a year and a half. Fast forward to the end of 2025, and the CEO said, okay, we are putting out a call for proposals. They call it an RFA. It's escaping me what that acronym stands for. But basically they said, okay, emergency practices around the country, submit a bid for the contract at Riverbend Hospital Emergency Department. We're opening it up nationwide. And they got like 15 bids or something. And including a bid from the practice that has been there, that has been in the Eugene area, that was at University District, that's been at Riverbend for 35 years, a group called Eugene Emergency Physicians. They put in a bid as well. It's like, oh, well, we would like to keep our job, so we'll put a bid in. So after all the bids were put in and they evaluated them, the CEO of Riverbend Hospital gave the contract to Apollo MD, a corporate management group based out of Atlanta, Georgia. And what they would have to do is just staff Riverbend Hospital with a bunch of locums doctors until they can find people to actually move to Eugene. So basically, you're taking local medicine and you're making it non-local, which is bad for medicine, particularly in emergency medicine care. Bad news, right? You don't want that. That's terrible. That's what gets me so fired up about corporate medicine is it's just bad for communities. Like, you want your doctors to like be in the care about the community, not these like guns for hire that just show up for like a month at a time, but they live in like North Carolina or Minnesota or whatever, and they just come in, get a paycheck and leave. That's not who you want staff in your hospitals, but that's what the result is going to be at this point. So we all knew this. This has been going on. And so that decision was made. Peace Health or the Eugene Emergency Physicians are fighting it. They've already said we're not going to work for Apollo MD, and Apollo MD has just blasted out recruiting emails to every physician in the country, basically trying to get people to come to Riverbend. It's a big mess. There was testimony at the State House in Oregon. Lawmakers are on it, are talking about it because it might be a violation of a corporate practice of medicine law that was recently passed in 2025. The governor of Oregon said, hey, can we hold on this transition to Apollo MD, please, until we figure out if this is actually legal or if it violates current state law in Oregon? That's where we're at. Until just a few weeks ago. What happened was there was a batch of emails that were made public by the Eugene Emergency Physicians and a few other physicians as well. Because, by the way, like, none of the staff, none of the physicians, none of the nurses are in favor of this change. So a big batch of emails came to light that showed Jim McGovern, the CEO of Riverbend Hospital, meddling in clinical decision-making, trying to influence physician clinical decision-making in real time. So you had a patient, like, for example, a patient in the emergency department. The doctor who sees that patient has made a decision, and like Jim McGovern, the CEO, is monitoring the orders, the things that are happening with that patient and sending emails to the doctors being, hey, why are we ordering a CT on this patient? Why are we not discharging this patient? And this is a problem because, well, number one, this is a C. They're not even in the physical area. They're just looking electronically at what's being ordered. They're not down there. He's not looking. He's not examining the patient. He's never seen this patient. And he's trying to influence what the doctors are doing for that patient, the doctors who are actually examining the patient. So obviously that sucks. That's like, that's why we make fun of hospital administrators for stuff like this, for not understanding what it's like to take care of a patient in that moment. Now, Jim McGovern's an MD, so you might say, well, he has an MD, he's a doctor. What's wrong with this? He has an administrative medical license. His license, he does not have a license to practice clinical medicine in Oregon, but that's exactly what he's doing. He's putting influence on people working for him, underneath him. He's putting influence on them to practice medicine a certain way. And I hope you all can understand how that can be a big problem. He's not licensed to do this. He's an administrative license. He cannot do this. It's not legal. It's not okay from the medical board's perspective. And think about this, because you have doctors who are making the best clinical decision that they can make, that they know to make. And you can understand how if you have a CEO telling you one thing, like, you might be worried that you're going to get repercussions if you don't go along with what the CEO, who's in an office on the 5th floor, right, is telling you to do. So what happened, and through these emails, we know this, is that this was happening for like a couple of years. And the emergency physicians back in 2024, early 2025, voiced their concerns about this behavior, about Jim McGovern trying to influence their clinical decision making. They reported this to the Peace Health system leadership. So the overall CEO of Peace Health. I don't know the person's name. So Jim McGovern is the CEO of that hospital, but this is like the Peace Health Organization CEO. They reported what they were concerned about, someone who doesn't have a medical license influencing decision-making, clinical decision-making. And it was shortly after that Jim McGovern called for proposals and ultimately gave the contract to somebody else. That's not Eugene, that's not the people who were kind of blowing the whistle. It doesn't take a big stretch to think, hey, this is retaliation. Jim McGovern is retaliating against the Eugene emergency physicians for voicing safety concerns. This is a huge issue. This is a major problem. If you have staff who are afraid to speak up about safety problems in a hospital because the CEO might not renew their contract, that's as bad as it gets from a safety standpoint. Like this, imagine you're a patient at this hospital reading this, is like, oh my God. Like the CEO is meddling in is influencing my doctor's clinical decision-making. My doctor might be afraid of getting fired if he doesn't agree with what the CEO says. Like this is a major issue. And so after all this came to light, the most recent thing that happened is Jim McGovern was placed on administrative leave. So this fight has now progressed to the point where here are the asks. Here's what I'm asking, but also what Eugene emergency physicians are asking. They're asking to stay this decision. Basically, put this on hold, not even just put it on hold, reverse the decision. Take it away, take this contract away from Apollo MD, give it back to the Eugene emergency physicians, because they do a great job. This isn't a performance issue. At the very least, let's postpone this until we can know for sure if the proposal process was fair, or if this was just retaliation because they were speaking up about safety concerns. So that's where we're at right now. In just a few days, I'm going on May 1st. Will be, in fact, by the time this comes out, probably it'll be just after that. I'll be speaking at a fundraiser for these Eugene emergency physicians and the legal fund, the legal fees to fight this decision, which I'm so happy to support by being there and speaking, because if this is successful and these physicians are able to fight against this and the contract is restored to them, then you can bet other states are going to look at this and be like, hey, why don't we pass a corporate practice of medicine law and protect ourselves the same way? And so you better believe other states are looking at this. And other states have a corporate practice of medicine laws in place. I know California has one. I think Oregon is the strongest. So if anybody's going to be able to successfully defeat this Apollo MD transition, it's going to be right here in the state of Oregon. So stay tuned. I update on social media and on this podcast because I love talking. I think this is a fascinating story, and I'm doing everything in my power as an internet comedian ophthalmologist to try to help these physicians, because I loathe corporate medicine. I keep medicine local. That's all I want. Like, I don't want these corporations operating in another state to have administrators out there influencing how medicine is practiced 2,000 miles away. Why would any of us want that? All right, let's take a break. We'll come back with some ophthalmology. Hey, Kristen, remember how you love eyelid mites now?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Well, there's a lot of confusion out there. I want to clear something up.
Okay.
All right. People think they can get eyelid mites from dogs and cats.
Can they?
No. These particular Demodex mites are specific to humans.
Okay.
So spread from dogs and cats is not expected. That's a myth.
Can't get them from cuddling our poodle.
No. Demodex mites that cause blepharitis live on humans. Most adults already have them. They just usually don't cause problems. It's when they overgrow that they can lead to itchy, red, irritated eyelids. Those little collarettes.
Mm-hmm. The crusties at the base of the eyelashes.
Right.
And the good news is there's a prescription eye drop available for Demodex blepharitis.
That is great news. To learn more about eyelid health and Demodex blepharitis, visit miteslovelids.com. Again, that's miteslovelids.com to learn more. This ad is brought to you by Tarsus Pharmaceuticals. All right, I have a mystery case for you. I know you guys love your mystery cases. What medical professional doesn't love a good mystery case? Okay, I don't think I've done this. It's entirely possible. I don't keep the best records in terms of what I talk about on this podcast and what I have not yet talked about. And so I apologize if you've heard this one before, but we're going to do it anyway. So this is a patient I saw, a 55-year-old who presented with gradual onset, progressive night blindness over 6 months. So he had noticed, like, over the course of that 6 months, just getting harder and harder to see at night. He had to stop driving at night because he couldn't see lane markers clearly on the road. And then even like artificial lights in his house seemed a little bit dimmer. Daytime vision seemed not fine. Like, he was able to drive, during the day, no issues. But once night came, different story altogether. Never had any eye problems previously, no prior ocular history, no problems with like color vision or anything else, no flashes, floaters, and none of this stuff. And no significant family history of any eye problems either. His medical history, He had he had suffered a thrombosis in his mesenteric vein about 4 years earlier. He actually had to undergo a small bowel resection and part of his colon as well. So he had a big bowel resection, and that's it as far as his history. Again, he's 55 years old. Um, Nothing significant for medications, allergies, again, no family history. So you think about things like inherited retinal diseases whenever you hear about like night blindness. Uh, Pretty rare. No history of like retinitis pigmentosa, um, and no significant like social history. On exam, pretty fairly normal exam. He had 20/20 in both eyes, a little bit hyperopic, full motility. His pupils were normal, wasn't any sign of optic nerve impairment. Eye pressures were normal. He had no cataract, which whenever you start hearing about like, okay, things are dimmer, trouble driving at night. One thing you think about is cataract. Now, 55 is pretty young, but I've done cataract surgery on people in their 30s and 40s. And so it's not unheard of to have significant cataracts in your 50s. But no significant cataract whatsoever. Maybe a little bit, but definitely not enough to cause like a significant night vision issue. Back of the eye looked healthy, normal optic nerves, normal retina, normal peripheral retina. So if you were concerned about something like retinitis pigmentosa, you'd see what are called bone spicule pigmentations in the periphery of the retina. It just looks like a collection of little bones. It's actually you should look up a photo of this. Bone spicule pigmentations, very classic for certain types of inherited retinal diseases. Visual field test. We did a visual field test, which was totally normal. And so I'm sitting here as a comprehensive ophthalmologist, like, okay, well, everything seems okay, but clearly very, very frustrated, very concerned about his night vision, night difficulties. So refer the patient to the university. Specifically to neuro-ophthalmology, because I honestly don't know what's going on. And the fact that this patient totally functional during the day and then has to basically stop all activity at night, it's very unusual. The history was very suggestive that something real was going on here. And so I wanted to get the university's opinion, and they have access if we do think there's actually like a problem with the photoreceptors. They have what's called an ERG, which is an electroretinogram, to try to determine, okay, could there be something here? All the other imaging was fine, was normal. OCT, like nothing. Everything looked okay. They did an ERG, which showed that there was a decreased scotopic flash, which is basically testing the rod function. So if you recall, we have rods, we have cones. Cones are more light adapted structures. So you're going to be using a lot of your cones for color, bright light, sunny days, daytime, outdoors. You're using a lot of cones. Rods are much more sensitive in dim light. So if you get an ERG where we dark adapt the patient and then shine like really small flashes of light, dim flashes of light, that's designed to try to measure the how sensitive the rods are. You're specifically measuring the rod responses. And for this patient, the rod response was much diminished compared to normal. All right. Cone response, fine. The photopic, what we call photopic response, great. Scotopic was minimized. So these findings suggest an acquired form of rod photoreceptor disease that's leading to night blindness. And there's only so many things that can cause that. And in the setting of someone who's had a small bowel resection or any kind of bowel resection, you have to think about vitamin A deficiency. That was creeping up toward the top of the differential here. So what did they do? Vitamin A level was drawn. Vitamin A level normally between 0.3 and 1.2 milligrams per liter. But this patient's vitamin A level, 0.12, well below the normal range. So the patient was started on oral vitamin A, 10,000 units per day, twice a day. Seems like a crazy amount of vitamin A, but hey, when you're low, you got to get it up. So here was the course. Over 1 month of this treatment, the patient reported that his vision had returned to normal. That's all it took, 1 month. Started driving again at night. Visual acuity actually improved. It was already pretty good, 2020. Actually improved in 2015. And so function was restored. A repeat ERG was done. That was back to normal. So let's talk about vitamin A deficiency because it is the leading cause of childhood blindness in the developing world. So in the US, vitamin A deficiency, when it happens, is usually because of malnutrition or malabsorption, like in this patient who didn't have part of his gut. It can also be, you can also get it from liver disease where you have poor vitamin metabolism, but malnutrition, malabsorption, which is definitely documented in that to occur after like bariatric surgery. So any kind of gut surgery, got to be worried a little bit about malabsorption. Xerophthalmia is a term that's used to describe the spectrum of eye diseases that occur from vitamin A deficiency. So it's not just night blindness that you can get. You can get severe dry eye. You can get ulceration of the cornea. You can get melting of your cornea. Severe dry eye can cause all of that. The cornea, it needs a good lubricant. It needs tears. But if you have vitamin A deficiency, you're not going to make tears. And then, of course, night blindness, retinopathy. And so you got to replete. That's the name of the game with vitamin A deficiency. It's often vitamin A is ingested, milk, meat, fish, liver, eggs, so many things. I think I remember there was like a board question that was like kind of a running gag. It was like, somebody, a fisherman or something, or someone in the tundra, living in the Alaskan tundra or the Canadian tundra, has been eating like polar bear liver. And that's the stem of the question. And trying to get you to remember that liver has a lot of vitamin A and you get vitamin A toxicity as opposed to malabsorption. I don't remember any like vitamin A deficiency questions, but so that's a slightly different problem. That's the only vitamin A question I can remember on any of my testing to become a doctor. And so, fortunately, this patient, I think if it had not been worked up and caught, and credit to the academic docs for like doing all the testing, there is concern that like blindness, permanent blindness can occur, especially if you start getting corneal changes. But the differential for night blindness, you can have lots of diseases. We talked about cataracts. Another one is just, I hear a lot about difficulty seeing at night in patients with macular degeneration. That's always going to be on the differential. We talked about inherited diseases like retinitis pigmentosa, just optic nerve problems in general. Things seem dim when you have an optic nerve that's not functioning well. So that's it. That was an interesting case. I thought, at least. This is a vitamin A deficiency, and it still happens. You don't think about like vitamin deficiencies, like they seem pretty rare. In fact, this might be probably the only time I've ever seen a patient with vitamin A deficiency. All right, and real quick, because we're running. We got a few minutes. Let's do something I love and something I hate. So here's something I love. I referred a patient to my retina colleague today specifically for this, and that is intravitreal injections. So these were just getting started as I was coming into med school. That was the early days of intravitreal injections for macular degeneration. So 20, really more like 30, 40 years ago, when you had wet AMD, which is when you have blood vessels that grow up into the retina and start bleeding and causing a dramatic change in vision, in your central vision. We had laser. We had surgery to try to remove the bleeding vessel or cauterize it. We had laser. But patients generally just kind of went blind. You lost that center vision. With the advent of intravitreal injections of anti-VEGF, which started out as a chemotherapy treatment, it revolutionized wet AMD. Now we have so many different treatments, so many medications we can inject into the eye, which sounds scary, and for a lot of people it is. But it's something our retina specialists that work at my partners, sometimes they'll do like 40, 50 of these things a day, sometimes even more. It's totally changed the game. And so I am very thankful. I love intravitreal injections because these patients can go from whenever the bleeding starts and they got really poor vision to I've seen patients get back to 20/20 getting these treatments. And usually it requires multiple treatments, right? You come and you get these injections every month, and eventually you can space it out to 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks. But it's totally changed the game, and it's one of the more exciting things that have happened in the last 40 years in ophthalmology is intravitreal, just treatment in general for macular degeneration. Here's something I hate. You guessed it, vision insurance. It's one thing I don't understand. I don't know why we have it. It confuses people. So, if any of you are maybe confused about vision insurance, let me just clear the air for you here, at least as much as I can. Vision insurance is separate from medical insurance. I do not use vision insurance because vision insurance is exclusively a product sold by the insurance company for you to have a benefit to get glasses or contacts and like a cursory vision exam. Not like a full vision, not a comprehensive exam where we look at medical problems. It's a very quick exam. And it's typically usually it's done by optometrists will do vision exams. We used to do vision exams, but now we have optometrists as part of our practice, and they do a lot of the vision exams because they're doing a lot of contacts. They're talking about patients doing a lot of glasses and doing, routine, sometimes diabetic exams and some very, very, more basic medical issues with the eyes. But those exams, patients can use their vision insurance on. And it's a very specific product that I don't even think should exist. I think all eye exams, just because you're nearsighted, that's a disease. That's not a normal thing to have as myopia. We just happen to be great at treating it with glasses and contacts. I think that should still be a medical exam. But insurance companies have sold these plans that give you a benefit to get glasses because I guess glasses are extraneous and not everybody needs a medical pair of glasses. Pair of glasses is just by itself is not a medical accommodation. It's it'd be the same thing as saying a wheelchair is not a medical accommodation. Like you don't have separate wheelchair insurance. That's what glasses are. It's a disability accommodation. Well, we treat it with the separate vision insurance, which almost never actually allows you to afford like a pair of glasses. Have anybody seen the what glasses cost these days? A prescription pair of glasses? It's a lot. I mean, you can get them you can find places, but it's becoming more difficult for people to afford glasses or contacts with a vision insurance plan. And it confuses patients because I have patients that come in to see me and they're 70 years old. They've been talked into a vision plan because they wear glasses. But when you're 70, you have cataracts, you might have glaucoma, might have macular degeneration. We might have to do all this testing that falls way outside of the purview of vision insurance. We're doing testing. We're talking about surgery. That's medical. All of that's medical. When you see an ophthalmologist, you will be using medical insurance because we are doing medical exams. We are talking about diseases that affect your eyes. All right, not just nearsighted, farsighted. We're doing that too. I think all of this should be under medical, but that's the distinction that insurance companies have. Vision is glasses, contacts. Medical, talking about surgery. But you can see how confusing that is to patients. And then so they're like, well, I thought this was going to be a vision appointment. This is a vision insurance. Like, well, no, like we have to do surgery. You have to need cataract surgery. Vision insurance won't pay for that. So you have to do a medical evaluation. This is what I'm talking about. How we've made it so complicated for people. It's impossible for the average person to navigate all this and understand all of this. There's Medicare A, B, C, D. There's pharmaceutical benefits, Medicare Advantage. It's so complicated. And then that's not even that's just understanding your plan, deductibles, coinsurance, prior auths. Then it's actually using your insurance and what that means. What applies to your deductible? Have I hit my out-of-pocket? Wait, this is in-network out-of-pocket. What about out-of-network out-of-pocket? Wait, my doctor's out-of-network? Wait, this office is in-network for vision insurance, but not for medical? That happens. Ugh. So vision insurance is, I won't say it's useless because people really, I guess people need it because otherwise their insurance is not going to pay for anything for their glasses or contacts. But it's something that should not exist. Should not exist. All eye care should be considered medical. We do not need vision insurance. And now I will gently step down off of my soapbox. Thank you. That is it for Knock Knock Eye. Appreciate you guys listening. Send me a comment. At Glaucomfleckens is the YouTube channel. That's where I personally I'll see a lot of the comments that come through. Really appreciate seeing the reactions, comment, any expertise people have. I love hearing other perspectives. So let me know. Yeah, leave a comment for me. My executive producers are Aaron Corney, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brooke. Editor and engineers Asa Pertiza. Our music is by Omer Benzvi. Knock Knock Eye is a human content production. I'll see you next time, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thanks for watching the episode. You can find more on that playlist over there. If you prefer to listen or you just had your eyes dilated, you can binge full episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Or join the party over on Patreon, where you get early access episodes, hang out with us, get lots of exclusive bonus content. Hope you subscribe, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think.